G'day folks, and welcome to the January 2024 edition of Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway, and this is an update of what's happened on here since the last update, which was the December one for Christmas in 2023. Where's that gone already? Anyway, I hope you've had a really good start to the new year, and I hope the new year continues to be a good one for you. Anyway, we'll have a look at what's been going on. Okay, you may remember from last time we had the Timber Merchants building completed. However, this area here was just ready with corrugated card as groundworks, the base for the whole area. But as you can see now, this area is pretty much complete. There's still details that need to be added in here, but we'll get to that as time comes along. One of the first things I did since the last update was this paving here for the Timber Merchants yard. Now, I started out with some Metcalf printed pavers and or cobbles actually, and I wasn't very pleased with the effect, so I got some card and I started scoring these up myself, and I used a hard pencil and just drew up the courses and everything, and then coloured it in with graphic markers, etc., to get the effect that I wanted. So we've got the whole area here for the Timber Merchant covered in the, let's call them cobbles, and they end there just before the siding. And anyway, we'll come back to that other part of the area in a moment. So the whole idea with this was to have the Timber Merchant removable, so it's just that easy, and you can see the corrugated card still underneath, and I've painted it grey just to sort of tidy up the look of it a bit. But you find with the building removed, it's much easier to get in here to clean track, etc. I mean, you could reach over and clean the track, but with the building a nice fit in here, it just sits inside this area of the paving. It makes it much easier to get back here, even to do the grass and everything, and there was infills behind the walls here that had to be done. It was much easier without the building on there. And to put it back in, we just simply find this little slot there in the pavers, and it just sits neatly in between the two walls and in the pavers. Of course, the next stage then was to create these walls. Once the paving had been set out, the idea was to create these walls, and the Timber Merchant was always going to be enclosed all along because it's a private siding and we need limited access in here. Only authorised access comes in here, and so the walls were the next stage. So I didn't have any timber that was the correct height, and I'll show you what I mean. When I talk about height, I'm talking about where the wall actually meets this wall. It's just behind the coal stage. I wanted that wall to be lower than that wall, and I didn't have anything pre-cut that was of a suitable size, so I just cut these walls out of foam board. Now, foam board's very easy to work with, and it was quite easy to cut the strips out, and then they were just simply covered with brick paper, and the brick piers were done, etc. So I've worked down at the Timber Merchant area first just to get those walls done. Now, once the Timber Merchant was done, we could then had somewhere to sort of work our measurements from for the Coal Merchant's wall over here. So it had to, the start of the Coal Merchant's wall had to line up with the end of the Timber Merchant wall here. So I had a point where I could start from here with the Coal Merchant's wall, and that was sort of put in, and I put a little angle on the end here just for something different. Now, you've probably noticed my gates here, and I've done some videos just showing those operating. But these gates operated each one individually. There's one here and there's one in the Timber Merchant's yard, and I've got those motorised, and two different systems actually. One's belt drive, this one is belt drive, and the other one is purely all gear driven. and just to add a bit more interest to the layout. This is the Coal Merchant's motor mounted up under the baseboard. It's difficult to get around this side to show you, but this is, if you can imagine the mechanism out of a music box. I bought this years ago and at a model railway show, and somebody has actually motorised with an electric motor this music box gear box, and it works quite well. This is the belt drive version. I'll show you the belt. Yeah, the belt goes over here to, it's actually a Meccano wheel there, but I had to put a sleeve inside the collar here because I need a 2mm shaft to fit this. Yeah, that's how it works. So it's belt drive. I'll just give it a quick go, and you can see it's quite slow when it's moving. The one for the timber merchant yard is, I'll put my hand here to shield the light a bit, is mounted up here. Yeah, you can see it mounted here with the gears and everything, and that's all purely gear drive, and so when that operates, it's a very geary noise on that one. Now, years ago, folks, I got a whole bunch of gears and worm drives and pinions and all sorts of things, and axles. I got them off the internet, and I'll just show you an axle. They're quite long, the axles, actually, and you could cut that down, obviously. But that's all this stuff here. It's a 2mm to take a 2mm shaft. So you can make up gearboxes or whatever to suit whatever you're doing, and yeah, there's a whole range of things that I've got, and that's what I decided to use to make this particular gate mechanism here. Now, what makes the gate work as well as it does is not so much the gearbox, but this gate actually slides on this shaft, and to do that I've used, what I've got here is 2mm heat shrink tube. Now what we've got is we've got a shaft going through the baseboard like that. This area here is 2mm heat shrink tube slid over the shaft, and if I take that off gently, you can see it's a good fit. There we go. Right, so we've got this heat shrink tube super glued to what is a balsa gate there, and then I've put printed overlays on there to create the gate. So the gate just simply slides over the shaft, and we have a stopper here, and there's also the brick wall that stops it this way. So I can slide that with my hand, but what happens is when the motor drives the gate back to here, the motor's still driving it, but the peg stops it, and the heat shrink tube is sliding on the shaft. It's just the perfect fit, actually. So both the gates are done that way. Once we'd got all that sorted out, it was time to work on this fence here to basically protect the timber merchant siding from any intrusion from this road here. So the first thing I did actually was put down the road. So this road is wet and dry paper, and it is the way I get these effects on it is I just obviously cut it to the sort of length and width that I want, and then really crumple it up, really distress it, and then rub it backwards and forwards over my bench and sort of smooth it out again. But you finish up with all these wrinkles, etc. I then rub over the top of the surface again with some more wet and dry paper to get these sort of lighter patches, and it comes up reasonably well. I've used the same method on other parts of the layout. Yeah, so once the road was down, we could work on this fence here. Now, this is chain wire fences. I've had a system of doing this for a few years now. I'll put up a video about how to do it. It's basically wire mesh forms the frame of the fence. The mesh is 25mm squares, and laid over that or superglued to it is fly wire mesh, nylon fly wire mesh cut on the diagonal and superglued to the frame of the fence. It's then painted in whatever colour you want. I did it with a silver first, so it looked brand new when it was first done, and then I've distressed it with rust colours and some weathering powders. There's also a gate here that, and a very short section of fence there, and just for interest's sake, it goes on an angle at this end just to follow the road. Of course, once the fence was done, we could get in here with static grass and some bushes and whatever, some rubbish, and yeah, just sort of scenic the area. These coal staves are a Pico product, so they come in sets of 3, so there's 2 lots of the model here. What I did was, they normally have a name stand on the back of them, so I've cut those off, and then before painting I've gone over the timber, or what's supposed to be timber here, which initially was just brown plastic. I got a very fine saw blade, a hacksaw blade, and dragged it across the surface of the plastic so it looks like worn timber. And once I'd done that, I cleaned it up a bit and then hit it with the appropriate colours, some greys and blacks and browns, etc., to sort of distress that and weather it as best I could. And then obviously when all that was done, it was filled up with some coal. And to top it off, we've got a scale scenes download. This is the scale scenes coal merchant weighbridge. We've got the weighbridge just here. That's a very simple little kit. It only took about a day to get all that together, and I've added my own unique signage to that. It's also removable. I've got a little base for it in there. I probably will put a light in there at some stage, so I can just drill through there and sort that out. But I like to have mostly removable buildings, so that if anything happens to this layout, I can always pick them up and take them with me. So then I started working on the area behind the terrace cottages that I have here over my control panel, and it was always going to be a garden area in this area here, just a little bit of a garden area near the footbridge, and sort of separating the terraces from the railway itself. This wall at the moment is not fixed in, it's just a temporary sit in there just to see how things are going. These are Metcalf cobbles, printed sheet, because it's a very small area and they were just convenient to use. This area here was all the original earthworks were taken up because I wanted to raise this area slightly, and you can see that I've got steps here. So I used some, once I scraped out the original earthworks, I put a sheet of polystyrene in here. It's not very thick, maybe 10 mils I suppose, and painted that brown, and we've got a permanent base here for the footbridge as well. So that's carred. That's also backfilled there with some gravel, and then the area had static grass applied to it, and I wanted a fairly neat hedge along this area, a manicured hedge. So the method for this hedge was found on the internet. It's not my idea. You use a kitchen scourer cut to whatever size you want, and in my case I've painted it brown first, just the scourer, and let that dry. And then once the brown paint is dried, I then use hairspray to apply 3 different layers of flocking, starting with the dark layer and then gradually working up to the lighter layer. And not saturating it as I go, so you get a bit of colour variation in there, and you've also got some gaps where you can see maybe the bit of the brown showing through, which looks like twigs, etc. So this area is still a work in progress. I've made some flowers and some bushes and whatever so far, and yeah, so we'll get that sorted out, and we're moving this way. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. So I'll just put the old footbridge back. Yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. Here's a better view of the area with the terraces in place. There's still a terrace missing down the far end, but you can see what I'm trying to do here. Well, that's a lot for this time, folks, so we'll see how we go with the next one. I hope to have a bit more done and completed, and we're gradually moving towards completion on this area of the layout. So stay safe and well, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, Gormo.